Welcome to Road Culture Rules. My name is Jill. I am here with Freedom and Lilith, and I wanted to ask the question today, is the RV life or RV living, does that create wealth and value in and of itself or for you personally? I'm going to ask you that question. I'm going to give you my short answer. And with that, before we launch into my ramble, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and see you on the other side. So the reason I'm bringing this question up is I'm still putting together a business plan for how I'm moving all this stuff forward. And part of what happens is you have to think about capital and investment. Is this project idea something that's worth investing in, which got me to capital, which got me to return on investment, or is it a good idea, right? Is there money in it? And that's typically, how we talk about life or investment is, is there a good reward? Is there a good return on the investment? And I had heard, I think at some point, I think it was Jack Spirko talking about over at the Survival Podcast, the 8 different types of capital. And so I thought I'd look that up. I found at least 30 different types of capital. I thought, I'm not talking about the 30 different types of capital, because obviously people are just making it to be whatever they want it to be. But that brought me back to what really is it, and it's wealth and what we value. And that's really what life is about, right? What do you value? What makes you feel or be wealthy in the way that matters to you? So I've already written a whole book on that, the Survival Solution Workbook, which really is a way to bring you to your own personal set of values so that you can choose and make decisions in your life and move it forward in a way that creates a better long-term life for you versus sort of the hit and miss thing I think that often we find ourselves getting stuck with as we chase just money. Because if you don't have any, that's exactly right what happens is you end up chasing it. But so taking it back, so I wanted to ask you that question because I think that's a really important question. It's interesting about the RV movement just from a recreational vehicle perspective. I think I've already said this, but both in 2016 and 2017, the first quarter, more Americans spent money on RVs than anything else, and that includes things like utilities, clothes, food, etc., which is sort of mind-boggling to me. I don't even understand how those numbers work, but that's pretty significant. So clearly there's something about this life that people value. And from comments, emails, watching other people, I can see some of the things come up, but I think that's a question we really have to answer for ourselves. What is valuable? What is it about this lifestyle that you feel like creates value or makes you feel wealthy? And I wanted to just give you a brief synopsis of those. A few things. I could go on forever in addition to challenges, but the 2 biggest things I would say that it created value for me is, and what I hear other people say is, number 1 is freedom. And I define freedom very differently. I think we all have freedom because to me, freedom is the ability to make a choice and live with the consequences. And the ability to do that is here and now for everybody, but not everybody wants to. And I think the biggest thing is what I see is people don't want to live with the consequences. Like, well, I can't do this. Well, you can, you just don't want to deal with the results of what that might be. And that to me, I'm okay with, and this life allows me to make much different choices than I had when I was living in a house, working at a job, that kind of thing. So for me, that's what my version of freedom is, which piggybacks with the other one that's even more important to me. And for me, it's time and space, the open spaces, and my time, my 24 hours a day that I get to decide how I want to use it. I would rather be really poor and have a ton of time that I can call my own than I would be to have a lot of money in a situation where I have very little time that is mine. And I remember when I was backpacking through Europe, we had all time and no money, and a guy which probably wasn't a good idea. But anyways, he picked me and this other gal up, and we were in Germany, and he took us out to eat. And I remember we bought us dinner, he bought us ice cream, and he told us about how he traveled when he was younger. And he said, at that time, I was like you. I had all time and no money. He says, now I have money, but I don't have any time. And so those two were really hard and difficult to reconcile. And, as it's not worked out for me in my favor, and that I value my time way more than I value money. That is the measure in which I define, my personal success. So that doesn't really work out so good in a world where we have to have money, but we're working on that. The other two things that I will add, that this lifestyle that creates some value for me, what I consider a wealthy life, is it really, it takes me out of my comfort zone. It's really challenged me. It's pushed me. And both trips have. When I backpacked through Europe, I was by myself. I didn't know what I was doing. It was before cell phones and internet. So it really required me to be way out of my comfort zone. And I remember at some point thinking, well, I can just go into a country where I don't speak the language, I don't have a place to stay, and within one day, I can do money exchange, I can find a place to sleep tonight, and I can find food. And what I was actually most afraid of was not being able to find a bathroom, but I don't ever remember that being an issue, so it must have been okay. And this has done the same thing. There's lots and lots of challenges, and there's lots of discomfort involved with this life. And while I don't enjoy the discomfort, I really like how it's pushed me to be more in the way that something is important to me. I like to be challenged, not so much in the middle of it, but afterwards. I like the challenge, and I like knowing that I'm now stronger or more resilient or more adaptive or more flexible. And that really comes back to what kind of character traits are important to you. And the fourth thing I'll throw out there, because I could go on forever, the fourth thing I'll throw out there is that this life allows me to create change much more quickly than when I had a house and a job and a lot of financial overhead. And even though, technically I'm kind of stuck right now, I'm not, because I'm building something that I need the stability right now of staying in one place, while I build something that I think that will take me even further into both four things that we've talked about. And so the less stuff you have, my thing is lighter, leaner, stronger, faster. It allows me to create change more quickly. And it's interesting, is most people are very resistant to change, and I love change, and that's partly why I'm ready to keep going and doing something different, but at this point it would be disruptive to just move for the sake of moving. And so that's a real personal thing. Is change something that's of value to you, and does it make you feel wealthy to be somebody who likes change? And the trick, that often comes with real wealth is you can't change, because the source of your wealth is often dependent on you not changing. But at the same time, if you become too stagnant, you often lose your market base. And I think that we're really shifting, economically from a business perspective, where we have to be more adaptive to keep moving with the market. But I see that that's so important at a personal level too, to be adaptive and move forward with personal changes so that you can be more resilient. Because if there's anything that's true, is this world is changing. We cannot hold on to what was. I just see that massive amounts of changes are coming at us, whether it's, the grand solar minimum, whether it's economic, whether it's civil war, whether it's our aging process. I had another conversation with somebody about more things to expect. I am not excited about some of this. So anyways, I just wanted to do a quick little video that did not require a lot of editing, because you know how when you're excited for something, it takes forever to get there in the mail, and when you don't care, or it's a bill, it shows up overnight. Well, we're excited, but it isn't anywhere close to getting here yet. So I just wanted to say hello. I wanted to throw that idea out to you. Something to think about, is this kind of life something that would create value and wealth for you? Just a little something to think about here as we are on Survival Road. So before we go, we're going to do that same one thing. We're going to take a deep breath, take one more step for on the road, and I hope you will rise with the sun in your eyes, love in your heart, feet firmly on the ground, because if you're walking, you're changing. As together we walk on Survival Road, one step at a time. Live free, die wild, my friend, and we'll see you next time.